Welcome to Retirement Rescue Radio, a show specifically designed to help retirees and pre-retirees maximize their financial efficiency so you can live the retirement lifestyle you've always imagined. Your host is Nate Miller, investment advisor representative and author of the CPR Retirement Rescue Roadmap. Nate discusses thoughts and ideas from some of today's most knowledgeable professionals in the field of finance. He offers strategies along the way to help you make better financial decisions so you can maximize your retirement. This is Retirement Rescue Radio.
All right, welcome to another episode of Retirement Rescue Radio. Today, we are going to be talking about the student loan forgiveness. Yes, I decided to take on that topic, and we're going to try to stay as, I want to say, non-political as possible with this, but it's going to happen. So first off, here's the, I guess, the issues here. Biden has decided with the stroke of a pen to relieve a lot of student loan debt out there. The numbers are still coming into exactly how much that's going to be, but they're basically, according to some estimates here, I'm looking at David Walker, which if you guys have not heard any of his podcast on the Power of Zero, he has a lot of good tax information. And it's basically, there was some, it was a nonpartisan study, Penn Wharton. It was said they estimated that the debt cancellation alone is going to cost up to $519 billion. But first, let's go over a little bit of what this is actually forgiving and how you can get your loans forgiven if you still have some of them. So first off, there's only really one stipulation to this. If you're single, if you make under $125,000, you can have up to $10,000 forgiven. If you also had a Pell Grant that you got sometime along the time that you were in college, you could actually have up to $20,000 forgiven. If you are married filing jointly and make under $250,000, those same limits apply. You can get up to $20,000 if you are a Pell Grant receiver and up to $10,000 if you are not. And so that's it as far as the numbers of what you can get forgiven. Now we're going to talk about a few other things. So here's the political part of this. So I am definitely not blind to the fact that a lot of the same people that may have taken, PP loans are now saying that, we shouldn't be forgiving all of these loans, right? So the PP loans, some of those were widely forgiven. During the pandemic, if you're not familiar with the PP loans, these were loans that were given to small businesses. You had to be a certain size in order to be eligible to receive this. And you had to either keep the same number of employees. I'm dumbing this down this is a very simplified version. You basically had to be able to keep the same amount of employees, or you either fired some but then brought them back within a certain amount of time. And so then you can still be eligible for those PP loans. And the idea was, since we shut down the economy and we couldn't have any income for a lot of small businesses, after they shut down the income and basically shut down the economy and turned off your income, then they threw money at us saying, hey, if you don't lay off all of your employees, we'll give you this money to pay for your employees. And so a lot of small business owners did take advantage of that, and quite a bit of that, if not all of it in some cases, was forgiven. So then it became not a loan, but a grant at that point, basically. And so I am not, I understand that. I've seen the funny memes and all of that, where the same people that took the PP loans or PPP loans are just crying, this is so totally unfair that you're going to have to end up paying for this, even though I paid off my student loans, or I never went to college and now I have to pay for someone else's college and all of that. We get it. You know what? I get that. Also, I understand the differences too. So this is not like, in 2008, the bailouts, by and large, there were a lot of them that were misappropriated. And there's a lot of people that did use those for unintended reasons, or unintended, purposes. Unintended purposes is really what they used them for. And did that still happen with the PPP loans? Absolutely. I would submit that it was probably a lot less prevalent than what a lot of people want to think, because it was a lot of small business owners and you had to have certain stipulations to get it. So the two circumstances are very, very different. One of them was the government decides to shut down the economy and therefore like almost all commerce stops. So then they throw money at it to keep the economy going and then they forgive that stuff. Here, there's no more stopping of the economy here. The economy is going along like it should, with the exception of like all the high inflation and all of that. And so I think what doing this is going to do is going to have some unintended consequences. And you know what? I'm not sitting here yelling from the top of a building going, I paid off my student loan, so you should too. That's not what I'm saying here. Because you know what? I recognize that this move is going to help out a lot of people. Are there some that don't deserve it? They're going to be getting it? Absolutely. But are there those that do deserve some help? Sure. You know, I can think of my friend Jessica, who was not out there lobbying for student loan reductions. She was a single mom that was working her butt off and, you know, raising some kids, not getting any help doing that, and not out there lobbying. How could she? She didn't have time to lobby, but she still has some student loans that she was paying off. And now this is going to give her a lot of reprieve, right? So this is a good thing for some people. And yes, are we mad that we're going to have to pay for it? Yes, a lot of people are. But you know what? That's a case where, you know what, there's somebody that's going to benefit from that. Did they ask to benefit from it? No. Did they vote to have it done? No. I mean, Biden just did that just with a stroke of a pen. But are they going to benefit from it? And are they going to apply for it? You're darn right they are. And so there's that part of it. The real problem that I see with the whole student loan debt reduction is that it's basically like most modern medicine. Instead of treating the source, right, and looking for a cure, we're treating the symptoms, right? And so what this is actually going to do, I know they said, oh, this was a one-time thing, but there is nothing so permanent as a temporary government solution. I believe that might have been Ronald Reagan that said that, but don't hold me to that, right? One of the presidents said that. And so here's the problem. It's probably not going to be a one-time thing. There could be dozens of other people in the future that could decide to do this. And because of that, this did not stop the issue of having extremely high college costs. We are basically telling colleges to continue to charge exorbitant amounts of money for our post-secondary education. Because you know what, there might be somebody that'll swoop in later on and relieve some of that debt load again. And so we're back in the same vicious cycle now, only now it might even be worse. This is coming at a time when we've got record high inflation and we're basically throwing more money at it that has to be paid for through taxes. And you know, increased taxes down the road are going to have to pay for this. So somebody has to pay for this. This is not free money. It's never just here's some money and it just came out of thin air. No, there are ramifications to this. And like I said, we are basically incentivizing the very institutions that are charging high prices to continue to charge high prices or even increase those high prices. And so that's the problem. And this solution is not a solution for that. It's just a solution for some of those that took out some of those loans at those high-priced institutions and gives them a little bit of reprieve. But you know, mark my words, this does not affect the tuition at all. There should have been some type of provision in there about the cost of post-secondary education. And I know a lot of people might be thinking, oh yeah, well, it's mostly because of all those, for-profit institutions. The for-profit institutions are really the ones that are responsible for all of this. And I would argue that point. So let me give you a few statistics and numbers here for you. Let's see here. And I want to do I want to show you what the difference is between for-profit, nonprofit public, and nonprofit private. So here we go. Total revenue at let's see, well, for public institutions, so this is public nonprofit institutions, was $438 billion. And this would have been 2020. This is according to nces.ed.gov. So total revenues, 438 billion at public institutions, 242 billion at private nonprofit institutions, and only 14 billion at private for-profit institutions. So there's not a whole lot that are using the private for-profit institutions. They're by and large using the public ones. And not only that, to give you the average annual cost if someone decides to go to these three different areas, and this is according to bestcolleges.com, and we'll have links to all of this. So for the 2019 to 20 school year, the average graduate tuition and fees at public colleges and universities was $12,410. The average for private nonprofit, so we're still in the nonprofit sector here, was $28,430 a year, over twice as expensive. But then you've got the average for the for-profit private colleges, and that was just a little bit more than the public colleges. Public, if you remember, public was $12,410. The private for-profit college was $14,290. So the for-profit schools aren't all that much more expensive than a nonprofit public college or university. And so they're not the ones that are accounting for all of the crazy tuition. But one can still argue even some of those public colleges and universities could bring their prices down as well. And so the problem is this bill doesn't do anything to touch those prices. Those prices just can continue to go up. And there's an old saying, you get more of what you incentivize, right? Or you get more of what you tolerate. Well, basically, we have just incentivized the college, university, whatever program industry to continue to increase their prices. And so that makes it difficult for those that are, hardworking people, middle America, to, help pay for their kids' colleges without them having to take on loans or try to get grants or anything like that. And so again, does not do what it was supposed to have done, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people have that same opinion, but I'm not sitting here saying that it shouldn't happen because of, some right-wing reasons that people like to spit out, because I realize that there is, there is irony and hypocrisy on both sides, because it was a Republican president that first started doing some of that, those PPP loans. It was a Republican president originally in 2008 that was doing the bailouts, right? But that's not the first time that that's ever happened. And so let's not forget that too. And so here's the problem. In government, will spend money no matter who's in office. And the problem is they just continue to increase and increase and increase the debt load and the deficit, and it's unsustainable. And so here's an idea. Instead of having all of these bailouts, how about we just find a way to cut expenses? Yeah. Oh my gosh, let's actually reduce the amount of expenditures that the government has, instead of increasing others but never decreasing and just asking people to pay more in taxes. Let's actually cut the expenses. Come on, let's do it, guys. It can happen. The budget could be balanced if you took enough attention or paid enough attention to it and put enough effort into it. So that's it. So that could increase inflation, right? Because we've got a bunch more money that we're just printing and sending out there. So it can increase inflation again, maybe not, immediately, but again, down the road, and we're already at pretty high ones now. And so, yeah, not a big fan of it. And that signing that into law is going to have a lot more broad-reaching effects on borrowers with federal student loans than we thought. But you know what? If anybody has any questions on whether or not they qualify for it, I mean, obviously we can help out. If you're any of our clients out there and you're wondering whether you or whether your kids or even grandkids, if they're in that situation, qualify for it, then that can be something we can help figure out. But it's pretty simple. I mean, you're probably going to be looking at some tax returns to find out what your previous year's Income was, so if you end up qualifying for the $125,000 or the $250,000 if you're married, staying under there. I have heard that they do plan on taxing that forgiveness as well. That's another issue though. So if they're planning on taxing that, that means if you gave up your $10,000, then, or excuse me, if you got $10,000 of your student loans canceled, that means you're going to get a tax form next year that is going to say you owe tax on another $10,000. Or if you got $20,000 forgiven, that's another $20,000 right on top of your income that you're going to have to end up paying. So it's not no strings attached money. There are strings attached, or as some people say, there's fleas on this dog, right? It will come back to bite us. That it will increase inflation. And once again, this is just another example, left or right, does not matter, of government overreaching, government spending too much and never having to take accountability for balancing the budget. And that's the issue. So kind of a short episode today. Overall, not a fan of the student loan debt forgiveness. But again, I also understand that there are some people out there that this truly is going to help. And I'm glad that it did, right? But it's going to end up hurting a lot of people down the road. And that's just, we never seem to, at least our those in office, and they just never seem to care about what the future ramifications are, as long as they can take care of an issue today. And you can't live your life like that. If you don't take care of something today with something in the future in mind, you could just create a bigger problem down the road. So whether that's for yourself or whether that's for someone else, it's going to be a bigger problem down the road. You can't keep kicking the can down the road. Pretty soon you're going to hit a dead end. I don't know if that analogy really works, but that's all I can think of here. So again, thank you for listening. Tune in again next week. We'll be bringing more information here because we're trying to empower you guys to live the retirement you deserve. Take care.